Like to repair the damage that's done. Dirty, stinking, free income. Flat, flat, flat. That's my stuff. Mine.
That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I know what you can have in money. Oh, Joseph, for me.
It's 19 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour on the 25th day of January in the year 2023. Welcome to another program of Welcome to another program of the Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by the BUXTONIAN kid at Amsterdam. How are you? How you been?
You're not authorized to carry
passed yesterday? I trust you had a good day, y'all. I trust you made some money. You know, money makes the world go round. I keep saying that. It's budget debates and so on and all kinds of things you're hearing. People making fun. You know, they say live in glass house, you mustn't pelt stone and so. But I got those who live in the glass house and they're pelting stones. They're tantalizing those of us who, you know, who are at the lower echelons, the lower rungs of the ladder. You got government ministers and so on tantalizing people who owe courts, right? Some of them can go to courts. They don't have to go to court. Some of them can go to any furniture store. A lot of them might be importing the stuff from Macy's and all kinds of things. Because, well, they got access to your coffers. They're thieving your money. They're enjoying the sweet. And so they throw remarks at people who owe courts, people who got a Bible on your purchase and so on. Watch them and continue making money. Make your money and use it wisely. Keep an eye out for them thieving politicians in the government. And anyway, you find thieving politicians anyhow, keep an eye out for them. It's Wednesday, we're going to have Dr. Hines in the house. And we're going to talk about some things. Right? Lots of things happening in this society. But you know, they always say, when we doing quick, we used to sing, tell them pick the mama like a chamber window. The royal whoever is coming down to marry the glorious daughter. I'm repeating, I'm telling villagers, residents across this country, especially those who are occupying ancestral lands, those whose communities, whose villages were bought by freed Africans, the Africans who were formerly enslaved. Form community protection groups. Get together as communities. Discuss what you own, what are your land assets. And strategize as how to keep it safe. How to keep it safe, how to protect it. I mentioned last week that most Indian communities, as far as I'm aware, did not, at least on the Region 4, and at least on the East Coast and so on, do not have backlands. They do not have backlands. The backlands, on the East Coast especially, are mostly connected to Afro-Guyanese villages. And with this thing about neighborhood and neighborhood democratic councils, communities which, Indo-Guyanese communities which find themselves in the neighborhood in Afro-Guyanese villages where backlands are available, the residents of those Indo-Guyanese communities automatically get a right to apply for land leases in those African Guyanese communities' backlands. Yes, they apply to the NDC, and the NDC can issue out leases to them for certain sections of the backlands. And I remember a time when there's a guy named Jinga from Annandale. Jinga wasn't a resident of the Buxton Falls NDC neighborhood, but Jinga used to go surreptitiously through those who are always willing to sell their soul for a raise. A lot of Buxtonians used to apply for lands and hand them over to Jinga. And at the time of Jinga's death, Jinga had hundreds of acres of lands, or acres upon acres of land that he used to cultivate in Buxton Magdam as a cane farmer. I'm saying that to say that we have to sit and talk with our youngsters about the way we treat our land assets. It is our inheritance, we got protected. We can't take a raise to divest ourselves of it. We can't take a raise to give somebody else access to it, because in the long run we can lose it, especially that the PPP is on a land grab parade. All over the grabbing land. They try a thing in Den Amstel, they come down to Moko, they go to Linden, all over there grabbing lands. And note I've been saying to you, from the time Guyana started producing oil, that in an oil producing country, there will be a construction boom. And once there's a construction boom, there will be a demand for lands. People will want lands. And so you'll have a lot of land grabbing taking place. And look around you and you're seeing it happening every day. I maintain the lands in Mocha, Kams View, that they raided those people off of, destroyed their property and animals and farms and everything. It's not a result of them wanting land for road as they're claiming. It is because they want the land to hand to one of their big friends in Conies, or a couple of them. The land grab continues. I understand the minister recently said, Pulari Joe, right? Because he is the man responsible for co-ops. And most African communities or most African Guyanese are part of land development co-ops, housing co-ops, and so on. And housing co-ops especially control a lot of land in this country. And so they have signaled that they're going to go after those lands. They're going to go after those lands. As they say, lands that are not being beneficially used by these co-ops and so on. The land is the property of the co-op must take control of it, and the people must take control of it. Dr. Hines is in the program. Dr. Hines, good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing, buddy?
All right.
All right, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've been following the budget debates, and if you have anything you want to talk about the budget debates before we go into other discussions.
No, I've not been following the debates. I heard Amanza Walton on the first day of the debate. I think that was Monday. And I think I listened to the fellow Cox from Northwest. I think he's an AFC MP. But other than that, I have not been following the debate.
As usual, the bigwigs are taking people's concerns lightly in the budget debates, taunting people about war courts and so on. But matters of more importance to us right now, as far as I'm concerned, would be the continued effort. We're not a month, a year away from what transpired at Mocha, with the government bulldozing people's homes to get them off of lands that they occupied for in excess of 30 years. And we know that across the country, a lot of lands are in the possession of co-ops especially. Last year, perhaps the whole year, I was talking about some lands of the East Coast that operatives of the government and more Hazinton or whatever NDC up there, some operatives also are trying to collude to get out of the hands of a co-op to hand over to a good friend of the government that has a housing scheme in that area in the vicinity of Lowlands and Moorside. And the co-op had an uphill task to protect that land. I've been in discussion with the Vijalstra co-op at Melanie, and they got some land issues with this government also. And recently, the Departments of Co-op, the Chief Co-op Officer, I understand, basically instructed or stood in support of some youngsters breaking into the Vijalstra's office and taking control, right? While the Vijalstra Co-op has its own management team and so on, it would appear as though the government supported an alternative team taking control of the Vijalstra Co-op by damaging property and all of that. Recent utterances coming from the government is that all these lands that are sitting around the place controlled by co-ops And my word, they're not doing anything with them. We're going to be going after those lands. You're older than I am. You have more history in your head about co-ops and so on and so forth. So I want you to, excuse me, I ain't too good, yeah? Oh my goodness, this is getting terrible. Yes, I would like you to perhaps walk us through a little in terms of land ownership, and especially African Guyanese land ownership through co-op. And this continued effort by the government to go after lands in areas that are contiguous to African Guyanese villages.
Well, I am more au fait with the latter question. You know, I wouldn't be able to walk you through land ownership and co-ops and so on. I don't have that information at my fingertips. But what I do know is what everybody ought to know, because it's plain before our eyes, is that there's a coordinated effort, as you suggested, by the government to get lands that are being held by African Guyanese. It's very clear. Linden, Moko, then Amstel, we know well what's happening there, Vijalstra, and you talk about the situation up there in Fowls. So it's a clear, and we saw what happened in West Babis. So there is a clear effort on the part of the government to acquire lands from African Guyanese. The question is, what do they intend to do with those lands? And at a point when we have oil and gas, well, oil, not gas yet, and oil wealth is coming in, and that oil wealth is being transferred to a small elite in the society, we can only speculate that the acquiring of these lands is part of a larger plan. It's part of a larger plan. You're not taking away land from people just because you could take it away. There is some plan afoot, and a lot of people in the know have suggested that these lands would be turned over to quote-unquote developers, private developers. So that makes the issue more than just a passing development. But in the process of acquiring these lands, because you have to acquire them by force, and in the process of acquiring these lands, what the government is doing is enticing people in the communities with small amounts of money. And I say small amounts of money because if you give people $8 million, as I understand they gave the majority of people in Mocha, people will soon find that $8 million is a pittance. There's not much you can do with $8 million. You certainly can't build a proper home these days with $8 million. So they're enticing people who are poor with money. And those who do not fall for the enticement, they are doing what they did in Moko. That is to use force to acquire these lands. So at both levels, at the level of acquisition of lands, but also at the level of the method that they're using to acquire the land, they're dispossessing African Guyanese. Now, you can't be taking away land from people in 2022, 2023, and be talking about equal development. It's not equal development. Land now becomes capital. That piece of land that Marco there, Caneview, moved from land to capital, you know, because it's now going to be used in the process of acquiring wealth. You see? So it becomes primary capital. And this is what we have to understand. We have to understand that we are at a phase in our country's history in which the whole business of acquisition of wealth becomes important. And I think that's what, as African Guyanese, we have to begin to think of. That a piece of land may have been idle for the last couple of years, but there's now the possibility that that land could become capital.
Low battery. Low battery. Low battery.
So I think that's where we are at the moment. And you know, this is quite instructive. You know, at the turn of the 1990s, the late 80s and the early 90s, as Desmond Hoy took power, and there was a transition from the socialism and state-run economy under Burnham, and the move towards structural adjustment where the private sector became the primary engine of growth. We saw that led to uneven outcomes because the private sector at that time was controlled by Portuguese and East Indians. And they were able to take advantage of the policy shift towards a private sector-driven development. They were front door. They had the capital to invest. And we've seen the same thing here, all right? Except that there is no opportunities for large investment than 30 years ago. And so the government now is actively involved using the power of the state to acquire assets on the behalf of its friends in the private sector. So we are at a critical moment where I heard you said at the beginning that African Guyanese have to protect their lands. We have to become aware. I agree they have to protect their lands, but we have to become aware of the drift in the political economy and where it's going. It's not just the oil money, but the oil money is going to be used to expand the commercial sector. There's going to be a lot more buying and selling because our commercial sector is into a lot of buying and selling. There's going to be an expansion in agriculture. And we know agriculture itself is ethnically based. And so there would be a demand for agricultural lands. And so all those lands that we have back the villages that we are not using for obvious reasons will become targets of those who are looking for lands to expand agriculture. So that is where we are. So it's a very uphill task, and I think here is where our experts have to become very active and to advise our people of the assets that they have at their disposal, and all those assets will now be primary capital. You know, I don't like to holler at people and tell them do this, because a lot of time people, a person is a doctor, and they're in the business of saving lives and taking care of the health of the society. And you holler at them and tell them about land. That's not their primary concern, These are collective assets that the neighborhood councillors have a right to defend and protect on the behalf of the people of the community.
On that issue of the neighborhood democratic council having a right to defend and protect, I'd rather think that task would have been more applicable to the village council, because, like I said earlier, in these neighborhood democratic councils, in these neighborhoods as we call them, the lands mostly that fall to the back of communities are African Guyanese lands. They fall in African Guyanese communities. But neighborhood, the old neighborhood arrangement allows Indo-Guyanese communities that find themselves in those neighborhoods, the residents, to apply to the NDC for access to those lands at the back of African Guyanese villages, because those lands are in the neighborhoods. And so when you find, like Buxton Falls, for example, Buxton Falls is now controlled by the PPP, right? So predominantly the council is PPP represented, and decisions therefore made by the council are going to be quote-unquote biased towards the PPP and its supporters. And so it doesn't necessarily serve the NDC or the PPP control NDC. What should I say? Purpose. It doesn't serve their purpose to protect lands back of Buxton from PPP supporters. And so I know.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I know previously we were talking about what they call a hybrid system for local government, in terms of there being a village council and a neighborhood democratic council still. Is that partly the answer?
Well, that is partly the answer, but the present answer is that the caucus, those councillors who are representing Buxton, nothing stops them from forming a Buxton caucus within the council to defend Buxton ancestral lands. They're not a majority, but you have a caucus. I mean, if we look at the U.S. model, within the U.S. Congress, you have the Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, the Progressive Caucus. We have to, our representatives have to become activists. They have to become activists. The Buxtonians or the councillors from Buxton who are in the neighborhood council should form a Buxton caucus. And then use that caucus to fight for the interests of Buxton within the larger NDC. In a sense, it becomes a kind of informal Buxton Village Council within the NDC. But I get the impression that people are not activists. The people who are, first of all, the people who occupy those positions are representing the party in the caucus. They run as APNU candidates, and so they represent APNU rather than representing Buxton. This is the problem we have with representation, and that is why I do not favor parties fully controlling local governments. I think we should have a hybrid system. You use the term hybrid. I think, a section or a part of or a number, let's say in a place like Buxton Falls, let's say there are 25 representatives in that neighborhood. I would fairly say half of the seats, half of those seats, let's say 12, should be set aside for party representation, and the other 13 should be for people who represent their communities, who represent the wards in the communities, rather than the party. So you got to have a kind of a hybrid system. You know, rather than you have 25 seats, and all 25 seats are filled by party reps, who then take their cue, not from the community, they take the cue from the party. I really don't think party should be part of local government. Certainly not all the seats in local government should be party driven. These are changes in our electoral system that we have to actively look at.
Very well, so you know, you spoke about what is the primary concern of people. For example, doctors looking after people's health as against being concerned about the land that lies the back of the community that belong to their ancestors and so on. But like we are recognizing the shifting, if I can call it shifting value of land or appreciation of the value of land. With land ownership, African Guyanese are finding it difficult to quote unquote elevate themselves economically, whether by the use of those lands or gainful employment, investment opportunities, and so on. I can just imagine how much more difficult it will be without access to those lands. What are the most serious of consequences I want to see? And what are the most serious of consequences African Guyanese can expect when these lands are taken out of their control and they're basically a landless people? You hear me?
Is that a question?
Yes, that's the question.
Well, we're going to have a collision in Guyana. I have no doubt about that. It's coming. I mean, people are not going to sit by. At some point, those communities are going to wake up. That is what. Look, I have no doubt in my mind that at some point African Guyanese will wake up, and with or without the support of political parties, they're going to defend their interests. That's inevitable. It's not a case of if; it's a case of when. The human spirit doesn't operate unless you are saying people willingly want to become enslaved again. And I think even the most uninterested African Guyanese don't want to be enslaved again. At some point, there's going to be a collision in the country. We saw it in Zimbabwe when, the question of lands were raised and Mugabe there, tried to rally the African people to protect their lands from the white, the white landowners. There is going to be a collision, Brother Kidaki. I mean, we can theorize about all kinds of things. The rate at which this government is going, without regard to ethnic sensitivities, is dangerous. It's dangerous.
But many will say when Mugabe addressed the land issue and reclamation of land and so on, Mugabe was in power. African Guyanese are not in power at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving the example about who is in power and who's out of power. I'm saying where the question of land is concerned. We saw in Zimbabwe a grab for land on the part of the white farmers. And the black farmers, the blacks, with the support of the government at the time, struck back. And I'm saying whether people have the support of a government or a political party, and they're going to strike back at some time. They're not going to allow the government to. I mean, I think the PPP is quite aware that that time will come, and that is why it's moving very to take advantage of this period of angst and lack of unity. The parties don't get their act together, and so on and so forth. This is a phase that African Guyanese are going through. And I think the PPP recognized that this phase is not going to last forever. And it's taking advantage of it. It knows. I think the only people who don't know, who apparently don't know, that at some point, with or without us as leaders, people are going to take their destiny into their own. The only people who don't know it seem to be us. Because we, I think there's a difference between trying to inspire people to be more active in their own interests and, telling people you all are fools because you all are not rising up. There's a thin line between the two, but I think sometimes we err more on the latter. That we are telling people, you need to do this, you need to rise up, you need to put boots on the ground, you need to this, as if these people are dumb. Rather than trying to coax people, sometimes we're coaxing work, sometimes to inspire people, sometimes to give people the confidence. That is what we ought to be doing. Every community, every ethnic group goes through the phase that African Guyanese are going through in Guyana right now. And this is not the first time we have gone through that phase. I know it's overwhelming to watch a government practically do as it like. And you have to be careful that you don't then believe your people don't have the natural capacity like others to defend their interests. A lot of times when I hear us urging people, you got to do something, and we are erring on the side of talking down to people and suggesting to them what the slave masters have suggested, that our people cannot exist in a state of freedom. And so, only our people can only act in slavery. We have to be very careful that we don't we don't become too overzealous in terms of trying to shape a response to the authoritarianism and the bullyism and the ethnic and racial agenda of the government. We have to be very careful that in our attempt to really stop this government, we don't get our people to the point that they feel they're stupid. The government thinks they're stupid. And if we get into the business of making them feel they're stupid too, we are defeating our own purpose. So, you see, what happened in 2020 was big. And as political parties, we only told our people part of the story. We tell them that these people thieved this election. We won the election. And so people rallied around that idea. We weren't more forceful in trying to tell our people, look, that election was not an end in itself. It was a means to a larger end. It was that election represented a big shift, a realignment of Guyanese politics and economics. We didn't tell our people that this thing had a global dimension. It had a racial dimension. We only talk about the party dimension, the election. We won the election and they lose and they're the installed government. We didn't do a good job of giving our people the big picture. So now we are confronted with the big picture of an authoritarian government with an ethnic agenda, with an economic agenda that include land grabbing, and that there's the global a dimension of this. Our people are now overwhelmed because as I said, we got our people stuck on the election, and the election is what was the issue, and not show our people the big picture. And this happens. This happens sometimes. And what has happened is now we are faced with this colossal government that is prepared to use every inch of power at its disposal. And that this government is, in a sense, protected or pampered by global actors. And that this government is prepared to confront African Guyanese on the racial level. We find ourselves scrambling because we are not up against something small. This is what I'm calling a political and economic realignment. It happened after Burnham died in 1985. The Cold War came to an end, and there was a realignment of politics in the world and a realignment of politics inside countries. We moved from being a commandist, state-centered economy to a private sector economy. And Hoyt had no choice if he wanted to survive. He had to go in that direction. It was the only game in town, structural adjustment. All right? And so the issue that faced our people there was not just that the PNC lost the 1990s. It was the PNC lost the election at a time when the world and our region and our country was making a seismic shift in terms of politics and economics. The politics of the 70s and the 60s and so on were over. Elections had to be conducted in a certain way. The economy had to shift in a certain way. And a lot of time we fail to explain that big shift as it was in the 1960s and 1970s. At that time, our people were more aware that independence had come. And there was a shift in the political economy, thank God for the Black Power movement, that raised the issue of Black possession of assets and lands, about Black power. And so we were in the game as Black people when that seismic shift happened after independence. But we were out of the game when the next seismic shift happened at the end of the Cold War. And we're out of the game now with the next seismic shift when we discovered oil. And that happens when you reduce politics to elections. I hope nobody gets me wrong. Elections are central to the political process, but it is one aspect of democracy. What the PPP skillfully did was to get us bogged down with elections as democracy, but not politics and economics as democracy. They leave out politics and economics. They talk about democracy. They they go and bulldoze your house. That's not democracy. That's not justice. But they don't talk about economics and politics and culture as part of democracy. For them, election is democracy. And then they tie us down to election. You know, every time I hear our people and our leaders talk about 2025, I scratch my head. Because I know we are losing the plot. Right? Elections are not end in themselves. They're means to an end. You use elections to get power, as we did in 2015, and the jury's still out as to whether we use the power that we got in 2015 as a means to an end. The PPP is using the 2020 election opening that they got. We call them installed, we call them what? But they're using that power from the 2020 election as a means to an end. And they're not even waiting for 2025 to do certain things. They're doing it now as though 2025 will not come. While we are thinking about 2025. The PPP is grabbing as much land in 2022, in 2023. And we are thinking about 2025. So we leave the door open for them to come in and steal our assets while we are looking at 2025. And I hope the audience understands me as I'm, reflecting here in what before it. I mean, I think people like myself understood that 2020 was going to be a seismic shift. And that is why, although I didn't support everything that our government did, meaning the coalition government between 2020 and between 2015 and 2020, I supported them in 2020 because I knew, or I came to the conclusion that it is better for the coalition to be in government with this seismic shift than the PPP. I feared the PPP, and that is why where somebody like Freddie Kisul and I parted company, he decided he is going to support the PPP, and I decided I wouldn't, not because I'm an Obia man, but because of my study of politics in the society. I knew that once those people got out, their political culture would lead them to what they're doing today. So I think one of the reasons we are where we are is that we got our people too caught up with electoral politics as an end in itself and not as a means to an end. And so we are at this point where we are now realizing that here, this is not just an installed regime. This is a regime with a clear purpose, with a clear agenda, that is prepared to play the hardest ball, that is prepared to use every inch of power. And they're doing it today. They're not planning tomorrow. Every budget, you notice, is bigger by the time you get to 2025. You're talking about $1 trillion budget. I mean, $1 billion budget. What am I saying? I'm confusing myself. $1 trillion budget. By next year, it's going to be $1 trillion budget. And the budget then becomes a means to transfer resources to supporters of the party who happen to be mostly of one ethnic group. So our narrative as opposition leaders, our narrative has to change. We have to let our people know that this is big stuff. You see, if we treat Moko as the PPP wants us to treat it, squatters versus the government, we lost the plot. It is not an issue of squatters versus the government. It's an issue of assets belonging to one ethnic group being taken away by a government in the name of another ethnic group. The minute we reduce it to squatters, we lost it. Because squatters will do what they did at Moko. The majority of them will take the money, the little small piece. And the 7 who stood up, we did not have the capacity and the will to protect them. We didn't. As a political leadership, we failed those people. Because we are looking to 2025. And we're not looking at what is being done now. And what is being done now, you hear PPP people, you hear civil society people. They said, if an election were held today, or in 2025, the PPP will win. You hear them with that. And we are falling for that by preparing to prevent them from winning, but in 2025. Look at what's happening at GECOM. And GECOM is not simply putting this body in that place. It's preparing the rigging machine, preparing GECOM to rig the election as it did, or to facilitate the rigging of election as GECOM did in 2020. So we have to look at our politics in holistic terms and not in these, we look at our politics in silos, rather than explaining to our people. We are at a critical period in our history. And this is a fight. And that if we lose this fight, we lose a lot. We may win government in 2025, but by that time, people will be dispossessed. The other side would be so empowered that our government will have a hard time governing. Because the other side would have so much economic power, it would prevent us from governing. And our people would have so little that they will then force us to use government to spare resources to them. Someone reminded me that Guyana had written an article called Burnham and Jaganism around 1972-73. And I went back and I read that thing. And what Guyana was pointing out at that time was the way in which the PPP's agenda of domination and using the ethnic majority to win election in order to dominate, that then forced African Guyanese to rally around the PNC as a counter-domination. And so we are heading in that direction, I think. We are heading in that direction. That if we do not stop this economic juggernaut, at the end of the day, this is about economics. This economic juggernaut that the PPP is using every day, every ounce of power, every budget, every act to transfer assets over to one small group that is supportive of it. So that if the PPP is kicked out of power, or lost power, or become uninstalled, their supporters are in such a strong economic power that they will dictate the terms of any government that we vote in. I am not saying that we should not vote in a government, try to move them electorally. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying do not throw everything into 2025 and leave yourself open as we have done from 2020, 2021, 2022, and that we seem to be going to be doing in 2023 and 2024. I hear talk that the PPP will call a snap election. The PPP would be foolish if they call a snap election. The PPP has 2 more years to plunder this economy, to transfer as much as they can transfer. You think they're going to call any snap election? They're going to carry it down to the wire, but they get us thinking about snap election. When we should be thinking about stopping the economic plunder.
Thank you for that analysis. And in your analysis, you did mention the role the Black Panther played as
the Black Power movement.
The Black Power movement, sorry. And so it makes me want to ask, is it that the PPP recognizes the importance of such organizations in rallying the people, that it has decided, well, in our quest to control and economically oppress African Guyanese and so on, we have to also attack the organizations, and that is what is fueling this continuous animosity against Apartheid?
Yes, and more. You've hit the nail on the head there. It is in the interest of the PPP to dumb down and discredit militancy in the back. So therefore, it says the militant organization are the lunatics. Don't worry with Heinz and Orr, and then nobody listens to them. You know, don't worry with Party. Don't worry with them. They're thieves. They're thieving government money. So they are discrediting the centers of militants in the black community. And as much as they curse the PNC, they are happy with a PNC that is not militant. They were scared when Norton was coming in. But once Norton gets in and Norton realizes that this thing is not an easy sale, he has a party that has just lost election or just kicked out of power. And he has to contend with the party. He has to contend with alienation in the black community. And so therefore, the PPP is making his job harder. And some of us are encouraging our people to haul at Norton and not telling our people Norton may have had good intentions coming into power. But once he got into power, the external forces and the PPP will do everything to make sure that he doesn't take a militant position. And then what they do is that they discredit those of us who take militant positions. A pollster called me and telling me that he's doing polling in the communities and want to find out from me when I go into the communities if I get the sense that the PPP is not doing well. I tell him, you're a pollster. You tell me, he said, well, the PPP, the PNC is not doing well in the communities. I said, it's the PNC. I asked him if the PNC is the only representative of African people. He said, well, politically. I said, have you ever polled me? I asked him, have you ever put in a poll David Hines to find out how much support, if I have any support in the community? No. They're not going to poll militants. They will do it quietly and they will keep it to themselves. All right? So, if APP answer your question, the level of strategy is ahead of us in the opposition. All right? If you confine support in the opposition constituency to the PNC, and then you go in and you say, but the people are dissatisfied with Norton, and they're dissatisfied with the PNC. You're beating down our people's spirit. But if you go in and say, well, Norton may have 75% support, but other leaders in the opposition have 20% support or 25%, that's different. But when you go in and you say, Norton got 75% support, you leave it hanging that 25% of our people supporting the people. Then that is not true. No other than Ralph Ramkorana said, the PPP going around fooling themselves that if they're going to share out thing, they will get black people to go. Ralph Ramkorana says, man, it's not going to happen. Our people are more likely to stay home at an election. And that is where polling has to expand to include other actors. Let us hear, does Kidaki Amsterdam have any support among our constituency? And if he does, then that will say to us, where at Kidaki Amsterdam, what section of our community he should organize in, and he and his party, and split up the work. In mobilizing our people, what our people need is mobilization. I keep saying, don't all on them. Don't make them look as though they're stupid. It's about finding that sweet connection with your people. And because we are not strategizing in terms of seeing the large picture, you know, you take blows today so that tomorrow you don't have to take blows. Mighty Sparrow say, you know, every time I try to escape, the dog and the whip is there to answer me. But a stay a plan and a planning still to make a brilliant escape. I don't think we are planning for that brilliant escape. The PPP is not operating just on the level of electoral politics. We managed to get the local government postponed. Did you see the PPP resist? They knew that they couldn't hold a local government election. But they wanted a local government election as a test for the national election, to test where the electorate is, to see whether black people are interested in it or not. And if black people didn't turn out for that local government election, as I suspect they wouldn't have, the PPP will then conclude that we can continue doing what we're doing to alienate them. The plan of the PPP is to alienate African Guyanese, alienate them from the political process, alienate them from the economic system, alienate them from their own leaders, alienate them from the old party, or from their own party. The PPP is not interested in getting black people en masse to go vote for them. They figure if they can get 20 votes in each black community, you know, that will amount to a quarter of a seat or a half of a seat. And it could help. So, insofar as they're looking for votes, is to top up. What they're more interested in is to alienate and beat our people so much down that come election, our people will be so battered that they won't go to the polls. That's the political plan. And that is why you have to stop them from beating your people now, so that your people would not be in bad health if and when the election comes. Strategy, my brother. Strategy. Strategy. The Indian is on the other side. They're popping mad at me. How dare David take the issue of the removal of native Indians from their land in America so as to give it to poor white people so that they can, David is talking about something that happened in America. Why is he bringing it to Guyana? Why are they talking about apartheid? Why are they bringing they are deathly afraid of us showing you all the large picture. What we are seeing in Guyana is African removal with our own trail of tears. As it's a removal from our lands. We'll move from idle sets to capital. They're removing us. Those lands, that land at Moka, as I said, is potential capital. That would lead to accumulation of wealth. And they're removing us from those lands. And we have to let people see the big picture. It's not that the PPP wake up in the morning and say we are going into Moka to, harass those black people. They have a larger plan that says that even if we have to go in there and demolish their housing, we will do it. We will take the criticism. But at the end of the day, we acquire potential capital for our friends and our people. That's the mindset. That's the mindset. But we then reduce the conversation to squatting and ancestral land. Nothing is wrong. Yes, people quote unquote squatting. Yes, it's ancestral land, but it's the bigger picture. The bigger picture is wealth. It's wealth that is being removed. Potential wealth. And that is why they don't want us to talk about apartheid. That is why they don't want us to talk about what's happening in the Palestine and make the comparison with Guyana. Our narrative has to change. Our narrative has to change. Sometimes I say, I should be a parliamentarian. You think I was going in any parliament to talk about that? I was going there to use my time in the budget to talk about the big picture that I'm talking about. And to talk to our people. To give our people kind of consciousness of the moment. That is not what every time the PPP era say, we talk too much, let's get action, they laugh. They laugh. Because that's what they want us to talk about. They don't want us to talk about consciousness. They want us to talk about talking too much. And we want action. What action are we talking about? What action? What action are we talking about? We just are talking. That action has to be part of a larger thrust. That's how you get people. That's how you inspire people. When I was a young man, and I hear Rodney and Clive Thomas and Quyan and them says that they're going to create a revolution, that inspired me as a young man. I want to be part of a revolution. You study revolution and you become part of revolutionary action. You don't inspire human beings with small talk. Small talk is not going to get people on the streets. You have to make people feel that they have a stake in going on the streets. And I don't think we have made that case yet. The people are ready to go on the streets in 2020 as power was being transferred. And we contested that transfer of power. They won't have to beg nobody to go out on the streets. People are ready. They go in front of Benja house there at State House and lie down. When he tried to come out, what's going on, boss? They were ready at that point. But we didn't have proper understanding of the big picture at that point. Our leaders didn't. And so therefore, that revolutionary fervor our people had in those 5 months, we allow it to slip. And now we are cussing those same people, saying they're not coming out. Come on, my people. You know, that's not how politics operate. That's not how. People have to have a reason to come out. You have to make them feel personal and a collective stake in this thing. In 2020, there was a stake, and the stake was power. Had gone out and fought in their tens of thousands. They were watching power being taken away from their leaders, but prepared to fight for their leaders. The leaders weren't prepared to fight. And you are now saying to them, "Are you stupid?" 3 years later, why you are not coming out? We are not linking things. We are not linking things. With 2020, we put it by itself, and we put 22 by itself. There's a linkage. There's a linkage. You have to inspire people.
There's a linkage. Good morning. You have to inspire people. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is now 7:30 hours on the 26th of January in the year 2023. Those of you who have been paying attention will know that today is the day I go to court. Today I return to court, so I'm not likely to be here long. You see, I'll dress up in my blue shirt. Yes. Today is my court date, and so I'm preparing to leave to go to court, as I usually see. I give myself enough time to commute, because the crazy rush and so on the road. But I'm sure that the replay of yesterday's program, albeit a partial replay, has given you enough food for thought. And, you know, has reinvigorated you and make you want to continue in the struggle. I didn't tell you yesterday that I was going to court this morning, because truth be told, I totally forgot, you know. I remembered yesterday afternoon into the evening. You know, sometimes I can't help but wonder, what really is the motive of Miranda Brown? She comes here and she blows out and calls it ever so often. I know she definitely is sent by the PPP. She's one of their representatives. And she's saying, don't insult her intelligence. I'm saying, all right, I think she said there, but don't insult her intelligence, which she is displaying little of. Right? In 2020, the leaders were busy trying to steal an election, to sell, she said sell an election. Sell an election when that never was. I will repeat. I spent, what, 30 or 40 something days in those recount centers. And I know what I saw. I know what I saw. And I am convinced that elections were stolen for the PPP. I know what I saw. And I want to ask Miranda Brown, how is it only certain persons were charged on the issue of quote-unquote fraudulent electoral practices? Where were the people who were responsible for almost 50 boxes not having statutory declaration documents? Weren't they culpable? Have you not seen the video with Anil Atraspi when he was confronted by Basil Williams and Amnali? Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Hines and I, we were on the ground, so we know these things happened and they were happening. So it's not a case of trying to sell a win that didn't happen. If Granger wanted to steal an election, there was no law that said Granger had to agree to a recount before an election petition was filed. There's no law that said that Granger had to allow people to interfere with the electoral process before the declarations were made. People who are close to Granger will tell you that he had several opportunities to be sworn in, and he refused. He said if people are alleging that elections are corrupted, I will not put my credibility on the line. Let us go to the boxes. That's against the law. So I don't know where people like Miranda get their logic from, how they reason. If I'm in government and I want to steal an election, then I will simply steal the election. I'm not going to make it possible for people to stop me from stealing that election by ordering a recount. Whether by order 60 or order 06 or order whatever. So you're insulting your own intelligence, Miranda. You seem not to have any. And all those of you who come here, you know, on an almost daily basis and talk crap about people stealing election and stuff like that. Right? It doesn't happen like that. I usually argue it takes a fool to be in power and lose it, and sometimes I say Granger was foolish in his self-righteous ways. Because the elections results were in favor of Granger to start with. And then when we went to the boxes because of this agreement for this recount and so on, we saw things that Guyanese never knew took place. And why do you think that PPP doesn't want the petition to be heard? Huh? I just saw a video that somebody sent me where an American was referring to the fact that the Granger government was overthrown. What do you think? It's a joke? We all knew what happened. And some of us have fair understanding of what the issues were. That caused the U.S. to Donald Trump in particular, the U.S. government represented by Trump and Pompeo and the likes. Why they wanted to see the back of the Granger government? Because the Granger government would not have allowed the U.S. and EXXON to have their ways as the PPP is allowing them to have. For example, under the Granger government, the EPA was functioning. EXXON had to toe the line. Can you imagine now? EXXON is moving from phase 1 to phase 100 without EPA approval. And recently somebody took them to court and the judge, what's his name? I think Narendra Singh or someone of them, ruled in favor of the complainant. And EXXON now is trying to get a stay on that ruling. Can you imagine people even having to take Granger, take the EPA, take EXXON to court under the Granger administration? No, Dr. Williams was, Adams was functioning. Bino was functioning. political interference might have existed, because it always does, but at a minimum. The US didn't want that. The US wanted to have their own way for EXXON and themselves. And those are reasons. Right now the US runs Guyana. The ABCE countries run Guyana. They had enough reason for wanting to remove the Granger government, because the Granger government did not indicate that it was going to give them that carte blanche that they were looking for. Right, Miranda Brown? You don't insult our intelligence. You could continue to insult yours. Take your little soup and rest yourself. It's 22 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. I want to be out of here. I'm going down to the court. I don't know how this matter is going to play out. I don't know what my lawyers prepped for and so on, but I'll see where it goes. Good? Rhonda, good morning. And Emily and Leanne and everybody else, good morning. Rena, happy birthday, girl. Rena is 16 today. Y'all shout out happy birthday to Rena. Right? Today's her 16th birthday. The girl forever young. Good? I wish her all that she wishes herself and the Creator's richest blessings. Long life and success. Let that be your portion, sis. Good health and everything. Good? In the meantime, stay safe. I don't know. If when I return I have the energy, I might give you a short live to tell you what's happening, or simply make a post to tell you how it went. Right? In the meantime, I'll have a good day. Hold the faith. Continue to share this program with Dr. Hines. I think it's a treasure trove. I think it has a whole lot of important information. Right? And it explains a lot of things. It explains a lot of things. The likes of Egan Gomes and so on. Maybe tomorrow I'll have a chat with Egan on this program. So Egan Gomes, see you tomorrow, maybe I can put you on live. Why not? Come on live, man, and answer some questions to the people, because I want to know what's this fight with you and the PNC and why you bad mouthing and they say bad minding or benign. Hit me up, you know the cell phone number, the WhatsApp number 6225933. Hit me up, Glenn, and maybe we can set up something for tomorrow. Have a good day. Behave yourself. Morning, morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor. You know when old people clear them throat for you, you gotta wonder why. Hey, we not old.
You can keep your conniving morning when you've been up for a bum. In a bills every morning. Now because your money done, you come with conniving morning. When you had your pocket full. In a bills every morning. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me morning. Yes, morning, neighbor. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, I know what you conniving morning. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a get a piece. A 2 pound note and a get a piece. A 2 pound note and a get a piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor. Money, neighbor, money. Money, neighbor, money. Money, I know what you conniving money. Oh, Joseph.
Morning, are you morning? Remember, Lou's Kitchen is open. Lou's Kitchen is open. You get grilled fish and rotisserie chicken on a daily basis, local juices and other beverages. Lou's Kitchen is open. Pay attention to this live. You're going to eventually find out what's happening at Lou's Kitchen. Lou's Kitchen is open. Good morning, neighbor. Morning. Welcome to Buxtonian Guyanese morning time. You know, they say you don't teach old dogs new tricks. Right? You don't teach old dogs new tricks. Welcome to the Guyanese morning time with the Buxtonian, Kidaki, Amsterdam. This morning I don't intend to talk too much. I'll hear clear my throat steady. They say when old people clear the throat for you, they give you a hint. You ever notice? if you're there doing something and you tell yourself nobody's paying attention, and then them old people just say, and tell you how to laugh. Rest in peace, Hector MacDonald Lee, Esquire. Anyway, y'all know the man? Hector MacDonald Lee. What the heck we used to call him? Hector Lee. Educator of no mean order. ESQ, Esquire. You know where you get the name, when you get the title Esquire, you're outstanding in human being. I'm Hector MacDonald Lee. Happens to be in my bloodline. Yes. Hector MacDonald Lee has taught across this country. All over this country, Hector Lee taught. His sister and what that would be his nieces, his niece in particular operate, what's the name of that business I always tell you about? Wafamania 592 and All J's Catering Service. Yes, Julie, big up yourself. June and Jasmine and Junil and Joy and All J's Catering Service. Let me give them a shout out. They're located down with the Walkwood. That's south of the railway line. A couple of, about 6 buildings on your left hand side. You won't miss the sign if you're going in search of them. Wafamania 592. All J's Catering. Make up yourself, Auntie June. I hope you're feeling better. She tell me she didn't feeling too good. She like me, like, you know. Like, listen, when BUXTONIAN old for sick, they're the sick. It's not for them that's sick one time. Don't let anybody extreme. When they're old for dead, not for them that's dead too. Right? But let me say, as I talk about that, condolences to the relatives and friends of Naka Wills. I never know, at least I can't remember Naka Wills' correct name. I always know the man as Naka. From little to big, used to call him Naka as far as I remember, Naka Wills. I had the pleasure of working with his wife for a couple of years at the Guyana Book Foundation. I also have the pleasure of knowing his children and being friends with some of them. So condolences to the Willses. Naka is going to be buried today. And condolences to the August family extended to the Smalls. They too have a funeral today. Woman Constable Akiza August is going to be buried today. So y'all could know as a person in the community and all of that, today's a kind of busy day down in the afternoon. I have to go to both funerals. And then with Delta Foundation, we have a little, what do we call it? Let me call it gifting. We're going to be giving out a few hampers today. I think about 15 hampers. The persons have already been identified, so y'all don't send nobody to me, right? We have already identified 15 persons who are going to receive some food hampers today, late in the day. So really today, you ever hear people talk about splitting themselves in many pieces? I really don't know how this thing is going to happen today. But these events were planned ahead of these funerals. And so you can't tell the people, postpone your funeral, nor can they tell us postpone your hamper sharing and stuff like that. And certainly we have the after lunch Fridays here and thing. So it's a real clash of events for me today. But that's what you do. You share yourself, and I always say to people, I share myself with the public. So anybody who tell themselves they got 100% ownership, you think again. You share me with everybody else. Hey, oh lad. Of all the persons, my daughter is reminded of that ever so often. Some days she was going to say, Daddy, I forget this home. Bring it for me, please. Y'all, I ain't got time. I'm going to this meeting, you know. Y'all, listen, why you just got to do these things to me, you know? Your father always busy. You're going to forget things and then call you and tell you about thing and so on. But yes, that's the reality. Today, I have a lot of sharing of myself to do. And so if you see me rushing out of here, as soon as it strikes 9, don't be surprised, because you know, above all of these things which I mentioned, preparing lunch for my kids over at the primary school, that's what I do on Fridays, and Fridays really is dedicated to them, at least that morning session of Friday. So I'm already, the preparation of the meals has already started. Today they're getting rotisserie chicken. Compliments of Lou's Kitchen, right? Right, they're getting rotisserie chicken. So if any of them listening, y'all at least could expect rotisserie chicken today. Last week they had some grilled chicken too. So yeah. Feed the children, man. We have to feed the children. And those of you who are willing to support the feeding program, I would be happy. I really need some sponsors now, because the word I'm getting is that more and more children are really going, come on, don't get emotional. More and more children are now going to school with less to eat. I'm very serious, because I try to keep track of that particular issue in the community. And so I'm understanding that across the school now there is a wider number of children who teachers recognize are having very little for lunch. How does a child study and drink a lemonade and $100 Polaroid? How nutritious is that? Right, a coolong and a $40 cassava ball and so on. And so I think there's a greater need now. And so I would love to increase on the number of meals I prepare on Fridays. I was told that an ideal number would be about 50, 60 meals, right? Which is almost 50% of the school's population, I was told. I think that would be about 25% of the school's population, right? So if you can help me to get to that 50, 60 meals on a Friday, I would very well welcome the assistance. Y'all know me, I normally don't come and beg for nothing. But when it comes to our children, I have no, what should I say? No barrier to asking for them. No, I ain't got pride. I could put my pride aside and say, well, listen, I need this assistance because it is going to assist our children. So I'm asking you this morning, those of you who can assist, let's take the number up to about 50, 60 meals on a Friday. Or if we can do it twice a week, quite frankly, I'm willing to put in the labor. I'm willing to put in the labor to get it done. So hit me up. 6225933 is the number if you can, if you have an interest in helping in that endeavor. Big up to Delta Foundation. Selected Delta has been doing something, perhaps even before the two of us started collaborating and stuff. He's actually the DJ here on weekends. And so I learned from him that he was, doing some charity with some, a couple of orphanages and so on. And so he's continuing that, and to some extent, we have now started collaborating on those things because, if he has a thing coming up, as we like to see, and he reaches out, I would assist. If he wants the venue at Club Twilight, I will organize it for him and stuff like that. Good, so that's a bit of housekeeping, if I can call it that. And remember, of course, Kams Tv and BUXTONIAN Morning Time also need your support, so continue to support us so that we can continue to do what we're doing here. This is not just about politics and fighting for good governance and so on. Because while we're fighting for good governance and we're keeping people politically aware, right? It is important that we keep people alive. It is important that we keep our communities alive. It is important that we give people hope, right? And so that is something that we have to continuously work on. As a matter of fact, I'm reminded that Sister Roslyn indicated to me that on Sunday they're going to have an outreach, I think, in Mocha, with those people from K&V and so on. I think it's between the hours of 11 and 2. And so if you can go down there and join that group on Sunday, it would be nice of you to go down. If you have drums, they would like to ask you to walk with your drums or hire a drummer. Take along a drummer. And so we can really invite and call upon and, celebrate with the ancestral spirits in that ancestral village. Right, that's Sunday between the hours of 11 and 2. 11 and 14 hours, that is what I remember Sister Roslyn telling me by way of message and a conversation yesterday. So keep that on your calendar also. Good, so it's 4 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. You had the benefit of listening to Dr. Hines on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Right, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I also did promise that I was going to ensure I played the voice notes in response to that program of those people who I didn't get to play on Wednesday. So now the task is mine to find it. Good. And so I'm going to those voice notes. I'm going to start the program like right now with these voice notes so that you have, excuse me, a connection between Wednesday's program and this morning's. And because this morning I intend for us to have a whole lot of discussion on the content of Dr. Hines' presentation, because I think it is so relevant. And I also issued an invite yesterday to Eglon Gomes to say, well, hit me up on Facebook and WhatsApp and tell me, come, let's talk about, you know, this whole this tiff between yourself and Aubrey Norton, or the leadership style of Aubrey Norton. Because sometimes when we interpret it that people don't like others, it is not that we don't like people or people don't like people. They simply don't like what they're seeing about them. And that means they don't like their style, they don't like their attitude, they don't like their approach to things. Not that people don't like that individual, right? So you might see Eglon Gomes talking a whole lot of things that we consider aggressive to Aubrey Norton, or Aubrey Norton's style of leadership. But that doesn't mean that they're enemies, or, you know, they don't get along. I don't know. I don't even know Eglon Gomes as much as I can say. I perhaps don't even know Aubrey Norton. I've met Aubrey Norton. We've been in the same space on a number of occasions and so on. We would write, I can call him, he would answer on phone and so on. Eglon Gomes, I'm not even sure I've ever met Eglon, right? But we are all in the same fight. So here's your first voice note from Wednesday.
Good morning, Dr. Hines and Kadaki. Your show last night, it was a good show. I didn't get all of it anyway. About this thing with the land grabbing, you know, there comes a time when everybody, don't matter how you're stupid, you decide enough is enough. And I know one day that the Africans in Guyana will say enough is enough. With Aubrey Norton, I don't know, I have seen him like he's doing a different way. Everybody may want him to do one thing, but he may know what he's doing. And I still think that we should give him a little more time and see what would be his outcome. And when it comes to talking about the budget, I agree with what Lincoln Lewis said. I think it was last week on your show. Don't go into Parliament. Because all this big abusing out and cussing up and licking down and icing up, dressing up is one thing. They have already presented a budget with no increase to the public sector that's mainly African populated. Also, no increase to the NIS pensioners. And don't matter what you do, where you go, that is the budget. Once they said this is the budget, you might burst a blood vessel, but you wouldn't get anything else. So, and I know the black people, the Africans need to start in the villages, to start to educate the people on the land ownership. Like what Maka now doing. All African villages must start putting out the history of the village and how the lands were being acquired. And people gonna know what is them on. But when you don't put it out, when you get like what has happened in Moko and up Linden, you wouldn't be able to stand up. Look, the opposite of Lincoln Lewis. He knew what was his. So he was able to stand up, but hadn't Lincoln Lewis. None of the historical origin of that land that he went down and got back from the gluttonous hands of Vincent, he would not have been able, but he had the history and the knowledge of the land. And the other African persons in Guyana must make up their mind to get the full history and keep it on the front burner. Bye-bye.
That was Ronda's voice note. Here's another from Wednesday.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki, Mr. Hines, and all those who are listening. I am saying the same thing. You're not hearing anything, Mr. Grincham condemning nothing. You're hearing his voice. He dumb, he deaf, he blind. Nothing you're hearing about from him or about him saying anything concerning all these situations going on. On the Van West Styles, they were fighting for the position to be the leader. And you mean none of them can say anything? None of them can say nothing? Van Miss Charles, like he gone in a cuckoo. You ain't hearing you're hearing nothing, you ain't saying nothing, you ain't seeing, you ain't hearing nothing. Huh? All of them dumb, and all of them are like dumb dogs, they cannot speak. Huh? I can't understand what's going on with these people. They want to lead, they want to be at the top there. And if they're not at the top there, they can't cooperate with whoever else is at the top there. They're not saying anything, they're not cooperating. This is so sad, this is so bad with our people. Plus, they got a set of, like snakes in the APN UFC. Ranjitan, you ain't seeing he condemning nothing, you ain't seeing he and there. He ain't going in this black community and saying nothing concerning these people, nothing. All of them dumb.
Here's another one.
Kadaki and Dr. Hines, good morning. Kadaki, let me tell you something. If you just take a good look at what is going on in this country, you will see exactly that there is no fight back to the PPP for nothing. Everything is being allowed and enabled. Because if we as a people should stand just for one cause to this installed government, we will see many things following that would fall into place.
Call all the line. You know, the deal wasn't that I was going to take calls now. I said I was going to play voice notes now from Wednesday. But hold the line. I'll take a call after.
But for some reason, I'm of my own opinion that the opposition went into some kind of secret bargaining along with these people like Sarah Lynch, because I realized that Aubrey got very quiet after speaking to her, never said what was the conversation. And he is not apparently allowing them to govern for 5 years. That, I think, they made that bargain. So they will not be able to come out and protest or take the fight to them because they already made that kind of plea. And I am saying it, this is my opinion. And I am saying it, something has to be wrong. Why the opposition cannot lead or do anything for their supporters. And I'm seeing it, that this got to be the bottom line of the story. But he will be exposed because I have him on record as saying that when he wanted to go in to become the leader of the opposition, he would said on record, well, when I get in there, I will do just what my people wanted me to do. What if people want him to do? Walk around and talk and do the madness that he's doing? No. No one never wanted him to do that. We put him there to take the fight to PPP as an opposition, because that is what you're opposing. That's what you're opposing. Thank you.
Call it there.
Yes. Good morning. One and all. I wasn't paying attention to the program at all, but I was doing other things. So I didn't realize that I couldn't call that. But anyhow.
So in short, you were disrespecting me. You were disrespecting us.
I apologize for that. To the other, let's play on the other page. Okay. The previous caller before with Norton, with Granger and them not being visible right now. That's a good thing for Norton, because out of sight, out of mind. We don't want those kind of people showing up right now, Granger and Harmon and all these kind of people, and more distraction from what is really going on. So that's good for Mr. Norton. And the other part I want to talk about is that ExxonMobil they've been submitting some numbers in regards to the operating expenses. I think over $1 billion, and we're not auditing those numbers and so on. But I think that the opposition, because I think they do have this authority to bring this case here now, to bring a case in front of the U.S. Congress, because ExxonMobil is a flagship American company globally, and I think the opposition could petition to bring a case in front of the U.S. Congress, and also have the FBI investigate what is really going on with these numbers that ExxonMobil is proposing, saying that they spent, right?
Yeah, but Colin, let me ask you this. Is it has ExxonMobil breached any terms or conditions of the contract by presenting these numbers, or is it that the government of Guyana has failed to do their due diligence in terms of these numbers? I'm asking because I don't know what the cases we're going to be bringing before the Congress. Is it that we find ExxonMobil culpable in wrongdoing, or is it that the people of Guyana, the government of Guyana, has shown itself inadequate to hold its end of the bargain?
Well, my argument is that it would be both, right? Because the thing is that there's a conspiracy here, and that could be proven because there's more than one entity here. One is the ExxonMobil, the other is the government of Guyana, and the operatives in the government of Guyana. So the point I was trying to make as well is that in the US, the law in the US says that you can't lie to the FBI nor lie to the US Congress because there's a big penalty there. So I think that we should call the U.S. government's bluff here now if they're bluffing us, right? And I think the opposition, they have a right to do so. To bring this in front of the U.S. Congress, have the FBI investigated the numbers, and if ExxonMobil is lying, then them and the government of Guyana will be made culpable, right? And we will get the right figures and everything. We would know if the government really have Guyana at its mind, the interest of Guyana on its mind or not.
I would love to know. That's what we need to do. I would love to know that Guyana is getting accurate accounting numbers, if I can call it that, right? But I don't know that you can just go to the U.S. Congress and say, listen, we want you to investigate this company because they claim that they have spent $100 billion in developing this oil field, and not provide to the U.S. Congress evidence to suggest that the numbers have been, inflated, right? In order for you to prove that ExxonMobil has been disingenuous in their declarations, the government of Guyana would have had to done their due diligence, and part of their due diligence is the audit of these figures. And so I'm thinking that asking the opposition to go before the U.S. Congress and make this demand might be just, in my mind, out of the world, as against asking the opposition or Guyanese people to demand that their government have the audits executed. Right?
Well, you done?
Yeah, I'm finished.
I think it wouldn't be good enough for us. I don't think it wouldn't be a good thing for us to ask the Guyana government to do so, because you're asking them to investigate themselves, asking cat to watch milk or whatever you want to say, right? But I do think that the opposition, they could do the due diligence as well, because they're shadowing the government, right? They're shadow ministers and all these kind of things. I mean, the funding is another story, but there's a lot of people who are supporting the opposition. So they could do a GoFundMe or whatever to get the experts to investigate these numbers here, right? And also, I do think that they have the authority to approach the U.S. government, because they're the opposition. They're the opposition in this country, and I think that Guyana, right, is a major party to the U.S. government. geopolitically and economically. So I do think that the U.S. government would respect the opposition in Guyana if they be aggressive enough, right? And if they bring the right things to the format. Right, they have people like Borak and these kind of people in the U.S. who could actually guide them in that regard, like get them to know to tell them who the people that they need to contact, right? And I think that they should know who the people that should be contacted. But I do think that they have the right to do so because Guyana, like I said, Guyana is a very important country to the U.S. right now, right? And if they think they're shadowing the government and if they think the numbers are wrong, then they should have an audit and have those numbers audited. And I think it was already proven because the previous Minister, Mr. Patterson, he said that the numbers are not correct, and he was in that field. So I do think that they've already done some of the due diligence that they're supposed to be doing. And so I think they should approach the U.S. government through the ambassador, whoever, or through the Congress people over here, and have that done. I think that they need to bring this because normal companies bring these companies in front of the Congress and the U.S. I mean, you could argue and say that it's over here, right? But like I said again, Guyana is a very important partner, right? And the U.S. has been looking out for monarchies around the world, right? And dictatorships, right? So why wouldn't they look out for a partner that is right in their backyard, a strategic partner that's right in their backyard? And they're looking over Saudi Arabia, a dictatorship, monarchy, whatever you want to call it, and some of these other countries. So I do think that they should approach that. That's what I wanted to say. I think they should approach the government, the U.S. Administration to have ExxonMobil investigated, have them in front of Congress, answering some questions, and have the FBI talking to them, because I know they will be trembling in their boots when they go in front of when asking questions to the FBI, and they have to go in front of Congress and answer these same questions, because they know if they lie, they know what could happen to them. So that's what we need to do. That's exactly what we need to do. Thank you.
I would be the first to, I would be very happy to have the numbers investigated. I'd be very happy to have EXXON investigated. But like I said, I think it's the people of Guyana, first and foremost, who must hold their government accountable. And if holding your government accountable means approaching the U.S. Congress to look into these matters, by all means, right? By all means. But like I said, I don't know on what grounds we are approaching the U.S. Congress. Maybe Coffee is going to tell us now. Call in live. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, all Guyanese, and good morning, everyone in the diaspora. Among your many talents, you should get the job of mind reader. Good question by the brother there, and I'm glad you picked him up on the question. And so look, it'll be a hard road to travel to go to the United States Congress to ask them this matter like this. The opposition can't do it. But is it a big enough issue for the United States Congress to pick it up? But the opposition can't do it, yes. But the proper channels would not be the United States Congress. The proper channels would be the State Department and USAID. What we need to realize is that USAID is a direct agency, a direct arm of the President of the United States. USAID was brought into existence by the Foreign Affairs Act of 1961 under President JFK. So when you see USAID driving around in Guyana, they are a direct arm to the president. But when you look at them, they look so regular, they don't seem like it. But USAID is a direct arm to the president's office. So you got two arms to the president. You got the embassy to the State Department. The embassy has a report to the State Department, the State Department reports to the president. Or you go direct to the president by way of USAID. Good. Now, to answer the brother's question, it'll be better if we brought a case against ExxonMobil. Brought a case against ExxonMobil for certain things such as fracking. Vincent Adams talked about a variety of things. We look at Vincent Adams' documentary. I think Vincent Adams is working in some capacity in Guyana. Anyway, Vincent Adams spoke at length with Dr. Hines on a show about some of the things, environmental things that EXXON is doing. So if we're interested, for those who are interested, can make an argument by getting EXXON into court. So that's the first thing. Get them into a court. Get into a fight. Tangle. And when you're tangling, then you can begin to touch and feel and do what you want to do. But you got to get into court. And fracking or things of that nature, EXXON is very complicit in doing. Right? Then we can get into local content and all other types of things that they should be doing. Now, another issue, being that this issue was raised, and I want to touch on something else. You see, United States is giving monies to certain countries under Foreign Affairs Act of 1961. And in order to give that money, the United States Embassy ambassador would have to make a report on human rights every year. And she reports to her boss, the Secretary of State, on the human rights activities in each country that receives these monies, foreign aid. Now, this report, human rights report, goes to the Secretary of State, and he or she sends a copy to the United States Congress. The United States Congress has two branches of foreign affairs. You got Mr. Meeks in the House of Representatives. He is there. Then in the Senate, you got a foreign affairs department there that deals with foreign affairs. You got two of them. Now, in order for America to give money to Guyana every year, Guyana has to score a certain score. If she falls below that score, she can begin to receive sanctions or not receive the monies. So what's my point? My point is, the United States, there's a law that says United States cannot give taxpayers money to rogue dictatorship, apartheid, terroristic governments. Guyana is qualifying as a rogue dictatorship, narco-terrorist state. So the point, to answer brother's question, United States is giving taxpayers money to dictatorships, and that is in violation of the Foreign Affairs Act. The United States cannot take taxpayers' money to support a dictatorship, providing you precedent in court, but you got to take it to court. See, we could talk all day outside of the court. We got to take it to court. Now, Americans can do that. So you, those living in America, can't do that. File that case. Okay? To show that the Congress is in violation of its own act. Okay, let's move on. Guyanese have a responsibility, which is to take our issue. If we say in Guyana that we see EXXON is doing something, then it's Guyanese job to do, not Americans' job to do for you in Guyana. You are on the soil, so you have to file it from within Guyana to say these things are happening. Now the PPP will not try its own case. They won't do that. But as private citizens, we can do that, and we should be doing that. And that's why about 11 months ago I said, let's start the Legal Defense Fund, because we need these things. Now, I want to touch on the topic before we close out. What I really want to talk on was nullification, interposition, and nullification. There is a doctrine called nullification. Nullification means to nullify, to lay void, to repeal something that should be in action, to say that something is not valid. Now, the PPP, have been nullifying the Constitution. interposition and nullifying. They're getting in the way. Interposition means to get in between, to interfere. And they have been nullifying. Everybody went to Mecca and said, we're going to jump over local government. That is nullification of a constitutional process. The operative word here is nullification. An installed president or an acting president cannot openly nullify the Constitution and then say it in public. So when we talk about, this morning I've been texting about accountability. This is not about Common Norton. This is not about individual. This is about the seat being accountable. Look, you go to court, so you buy a washing machine. 3 weeks later, the washing machine not working. What do courts tell you? You got a what? Got a warranty. And a warranty is to protect the customer's interest. I paid my money, give me what I paid for. We voted for you, give us what we vote for. For those of us who live in the United States, we remember how the United States broke away from Britain, from the Great Britain. Taxation without proper representation. You can't take my money and don't give me what I paid for. You can't accept my vote, then not represent me sufficiently. Not Coffee saying that. Read the polls on Facebook. The people are saying they want adequate representation. This is not Coffee saying that. And again, this is not about Granger. This is about the seat that we voted for. If you go to the store and you buy something, 10 gallons of gasoline, and the man only give you 2 gallons, what you gonna do? You're gonna demand what you paid for. It's the same thing with Aubrey Norton, Cameron Norton. It's the same thing with Granger. It's the same thing with the PPP. They have to account for that money that they're taking, that they're stealing in the budget. Everybody has to be accountable. And the quicker we understand that, because I see a lot of people getting caught up on this emotion thing, and then, oh, you get... Pardon me?
Go ahead, go right ahead, sorry.
Yes. The longer we get caught up on this emotional thing about, oh, y'all stop putting so much pressure on Cameron Norton. This is not about Cameron Norton. And Cameron Norton knows that. Cameron Norton is the first one to say this is about accountability. And look, we are not marching to beating nobody in Florida. Nobody in Florida who wants to get Norton out. We don't know the reasons why they want to get Norton out from Florida.
Hold your call, or you can call again. You're holding, or you will call again? Okay. Continue, Coffee, go ahead.
I'm here.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hearing. Yeah. So, look, if Florida wants Cameron Norton out, then they need to spell out why they want Cameron Norton out. But we're not going to just go for no bluff, no order 60. You want to get Cameron Norton out? Look at Rosedale Ford and this other one. That sounds like a setup. It smells like a setup. Nobody want to hear that. You come on the phone and giving out these messages and setting up somebody from the treasurer. It sounds like a setup. No. We're not into that cheap trick thing. If you want to get Cameron Norton out, then you better got justified reason. You see what I'm saying? Don't come and try to influence us to get Cameron Norton out simply because you got some ulterior axe to grind in Florida. If you got just reasons, then tell us what your just reasons are. Now I'm saying those of us, we got just reasons because we voted for an opposition that would hold the PPP accountable against illegitimacy. And the opposition has not done that thus far. Cameron Norton was all for protests, and now he's not for protest. Specifics. So for us, because the longer we cloud this thing, as though we beaten up on Norton, we support Norton, but we support Norton if he does better than he's doing. But we cannot support his current attitude. His attitude, it appears on the surface that he's more inclined to satisfy foreign interests, while we, the ones who vote, are left victimized. Comrade Norton was for mobilizing in the street from Mayor Ryan. I'm saying, wow, how is it Mayor Ryan getting mobilization and we can't get the mobilization for the biggest fight to remove the PPP? That sounds very funny. Comrade Norton says, there's a man in front of Brick Dam. Look, we're going to mobilize. Okay, I was enthused. But how we mobilizing for Mayor Ryan, which we should. But if you're going to mobilize for Mayor Ryan, then it behooves us to mobilize for what? The big fight. And I'm saying, like, we've got our priorities misplaced. So with regards to representation there, that's lacking. Look, Dr. Hines made a point, and Kadaki said he wanted to talk more about Dr. Hines's commentary. Dr. Hines raised a point that this thing is bigger than just Comrade Norton. Yes and no. Yes, it's bigger because it's global politics, but it's our oil. It's our oil. It's on our ground, and we're a republic. And if you want to deal with it, then you got to do right by the citizens. Simple as that. I don't consider how many ABCs you got to your name. And we should not be concerned with how many ABCs you got to the name. So Dr. Hines is making the point, and I understand it's bigger. More people are involved. Yes, that's for them. They got their eyes on our price. So it's bigger because they got their big eye on our business, our assets. But we in Guyana have to say, forget about how many people got their eyes on what we got. It's our oil, and we're a republic, and we've got to mobilize our people to behave like the Palestinians, to behave like they behave in Afghanistan or South Africa or Haiti. We got to bar up for we own. But we are a million miles away from that because we don't empower our people like that. You know why? Because we are busy leaning and appeasing with foreign interests. So if you're appeasing to foreign interests, you can't mobilize your people. How come the WYSM can't mobilize yet? And they mobilize it for Green Line. The YSM, the GYN was mobilizing for the Green Line on Boxing Day. How come they can't mobilize the people yet? I can't mobilize the youth yet.
Wrap up
you
time.
Want to talk about accountability? Okay, I'm going to wrap up. You want to talk about accountability? What is the GYSM doing? Have they been mobilized to mobilize the youth yet? How come we don't want to mobilize the youth? Because we don't want to create no monsters, do we? Because we're afraid if we mobilize the youth, then we will rise up an army. And we can't have an army and satisfy the foreign interests. Becomes a conflict of interest. So come on, now, look. We ain't stupid, you know. We ain't stupid. We need accountability or find someone who could do the job. We're going to keep the pressure on you. And if you think we're bluffing, we'll bluff. We'll show you how we're bluffing at the ballot box. This is not about you. This is about the man in the seat. Once again, thank you for listening.
Thank you for your call. Caller, thank you for holding your life.
Yes, good morning, Kadak. I want to something about it because, you know, these people, man, could only do so much. They have coffee talking. Coffee didn't vote for nothing. They have bench cup talking. Bench cup didn't come and vote for nothing. You have a host of them talking, and they are not voting for it. Not the people, let them vote the call about and see who comes with the same person that don't come back. That can only do so much. This is that long time when people don't go on the road and you call people and they come out. No since wait, you tell people coming out. Nobody wants to come out. You call him, he go out there, you know. He's working, we going to house talking to the people, get him to mobilize. What more can he do? These people talk, all of them go to everybody talk. They want this man go, but if he go out there, he get somebody kill him. What they done said. He shouldn't go out and do this. He can't go out and fight everybody. They have to come out too. If you call them out now, nobody's not coming out. You alone watch you get in the protest. Ask how many of them coming out there. How many of them coming out to protest on that road? Nobody is coming out. Everybody talking boots on the ground, boots on the ground. How many of them put their boots on the ground? Let them come out and put their boots on the ground before they talk a lot of nonsense, a lot of trash, that not this and that. How much he could do? He doing a lot. He going also out talking to the people every day. This man is on the road. Every day he going try to mobilize, get the group, try to get people together to bring them back. But they have a lot of snake in the back. We have a lot of snake there because some of them put Arman is dead. Arman is not there any longer. Arman get people setting up people like Gomes, Larry London, and them to say for pass on some to get them to get nothing out. What nonsense is going on? Arman will give it Arman unable to do nothing. All he looking for maybe is money looking for. He ain't getting recognized, so he want putting these dirty people to come out and his dumb ass them to come out to say, well, look, all right, we put in what you call it, no confidence motion against Abinant. This man is doing so much. Coffee talking a lot of trash. He's another trasher because he is there and only takes him that he vote for that. He never vote for that. He is there. Let him come to Guyana and let the process, let the PPP lock him up. Let Betchcom come, let the PPP lock him up. I was listening to Betchcom tell him that the other night that didn't go he went to Moko, and Moko it was thinking and walk on. Dr. Hines and Mr. Nat was there together. Mr. Nat was trying to talk to the man and the who digging up the people breaking on the people house and all these things. Mr. Nat went back and trying to get out place and these people stayed the night was there so late, waiting for these people get place the night to sleep. He go back there with this woman, this Indian woman from New York, go and carry food for these people, carry things to these people get. And these people talking about nothing. Let all them come out and go and come and set up on the road in front of PPP place and let them lock all of them up. Let them come to Guyana and see what they could do. More can come, Benchcom can come, coffee sales can even come. So let it carry the tail, let it side. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Voice note.
Good morning, Kudaki. Good morning, viewers. I was listening to the program for the longest while, and everybody just bombasting Mr. Norton, this, Mr. Norton, no. No, Mr. Norton will get your own ways. You're waking up a sleeping giant. The man can't just take over and go and run, do things. You can't carry a fight and you don't have.
Call all the line.
Ammunition. It takes a certain amount of time. A true politician is feed upon your mistakes. When people making mistakes, they just capitalize. You just allow some people to let you shoot their own self in your own foot, and when you do start to retaliate, you then get no more turning back. So people got to understand what's politics really. They get some time, they got to pull in your head, watch the situation, analyze it properly before you take up position, they said, to carry a war. Because you carry a war, do you have things to combat or defend yourself? I'm talking about peace, protest, wherever it is it be. Right? Now, you got to analyze the whole situation before you run. And some man, well, you know, you're taking up a position. Everybody telling the man, why you don't protest. Enough time, man might go there for protest. When you look around, is he alone? All these things happen. Right? So you gotta watch the situation, analyze it properly before a person could really make such a drastic move or whatever he promised the people. You gotta hold on. Things don't happen overnight. You don't know just people tell you, step down and wait for another 2 years or wait for another year. You don't know, we don't know what's the deal. That's what I'm saying. Politics is not an easy game because all superpower just want to get control of your country, all of them. So, that's my view for the morning.
Call it live, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. I just want to make a point this morning. I want to say that
Caller,
Kadaki,
I'm listening
good morning.
to you.
These people just talking about the Bin Laden, we were out there for 5 months in front of Granger Place. Nobody, Mr. Granger never stopped one day and talk to people. They kill people's spirit. They kill people protesting spirit. I used to go there the day before Mr. Granger gave up. We went to his place with the African clothes. They said they're going to hold a rally. When we come back to coffee, chow pow, when everybody was out there, nobody else. Then the next day you sit down and hear Mr. Granger gave up. He never come out and address the nation. He never tell nobody what went wrong. And Mr. Harmon and they must rest themselves so they stop setting fire. They're too wicked. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. It's 8 hours 38. Eight hours 38, 22 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. You tune to the Guyanese morning time. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. Call it live. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Just now you cut me off anyway. Now there is where you see the testicular fortitude of the thing called Eglon Gomes. He was there spinning a lot of things all the time. Now you a man, call him out for a man-to-man talk. It cannot appear on your program. And I'm quite certain he knew that you wanted a man-to-man talk with him. He can't appear. So there is where the people who are listening to things like Eglon Gomes and Norman Brown, they must know what they are listening to. These people are there literally to set fire from a distance, they throw in the kerosene and then they flicking a lighter and they causing fire to cause disruption in what is going on. People calling that nobody going out and protest. I am a person, because of talking on programs like yours, going out on protest line, I am being made a victim. Because when you see the case was handed down, imagine the prosecutors, the police in my matter were all Indians. And they said quite clearly, there is no way they could bring me in guilty. But the Indian magistrate said she found me guilty and she knows of my standing in the community. They will pay this atrocious figure of 500,000. That is what I get for protesting and for airing my concerns in this fraudulent government. Now, as a leader, I could remember the last time when you were being arrested, we were out there protesting. A foreign Guyanese, because of how she was talking and she behaving, you knew that she was just home on holiday. And when the police came up and arrested you, the woman went live. And she was she was cussing nasty. She said, I calling you effing Americans, North American people, would say that Guyanese, they may want for protest. Look what happening here with Kadaki. And the woman was going mad. She said, I now understand what goes on in Guyana in protesting. She even talk how they protested for this because the Black Lives Matter movement and all these things. She said, when we go to protest, The police would come there, yes, to see we maintain a peaceful protest. She said no police is there to fire on us and arrest us. The woman was there. And when you got a leader got a heart for his people. And if not, no, going out on the road, which he does, will cause people in that procession and all these people out there to be arrested. Right now, Guyana got to be woke because this is a country of a lot of things. And if you lynch about 20 to 40 people and not getting people frightened, remember body parts. The other day, I just go rolling through Facebook, YouTube, and I saw the atrocities of body harvesting, organ harvesting, especially of kidneys. I don't say we must not go out and protest. Yesterday, I said, look, I gotta go. Me heel shattering with pain. I said, we got to go. I'm gonna give you strength at the court. And when we end up at the last part waiting, soon as we got up, there was a massive black man. And when we said, wonder which court, GECOM, myself and the other person, we didn't say anything. We just sat and we didn't give him anything. And when you came out there and we got up and we walked off and I turned back, if you see the eye of that man, and all the time, the man was texting and sending what he had to send and keep reporting. And when we got out in the clearing, the bad with me said, you see the man there? He does always there when we step on the protest line. And he is a police. Outside people, foreigners, now that we are condoning what is going on, we got to know what we go through. I am a marked person. Every day I got to study if I gonna wake up because of what I do in the line of protesting, in the line of talking what goes on in Guyana on a daily basis. And y'all don't bash. We don't know what's the reason for not bringing out the whole set of people on the line. Y'all take the time. And Eglon Gomes, we now see you for who you are. You're just talking from a soiled pampa full of feces and urine. It is overloaded with the mess, and so you're spewing it out. Don't come round me funny. We are here. We know what we go through. Norman Brown, we are here. Jimmy Cliff said, I can't remember this song. Put yourself in my place, only for a day. See if you could stand. You sit in America. When the place is too hot, you got AC. When the place too cold, you got heat. If we get too hot in Guyana, we may have ACs outside, but there is no current to give us coolness in Guyana. That is where we live. This is what we have to go through. So for heaven's sake, when you want to talk, be like that woman. There's a man out there with us who lives abroad, and every day it got protests. He is on the protest line. Come to Guyana and say, you know what? Today I came out there and let me protest. And when you have done that, when you have walked in our shoes, sit down and pound base us for not protesting. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your call.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. A pleasant good morning to you. I'm calling all the way from West Boobies. I was listening to Comrade Dr. Hines' program last night, and I also regularly listen to your program every day also. But then sometimes when the net is not there, you know, the time goes, you don't get it. But then what Mr. Hines was saying last night about going to the villages in West Boobies, I think it's a wise idea, because I'm living in a village, Golden Grove, La Villas. It's just like people isn't living there. Unity is not there. You don't even know where the cemetery is, if you see the place. And they got a whole set of young people big people and all could end up try and do whatever, but then the support is not there because people need people to talk to them and let them know that if we cannot unite, we cannot be one. We cannot be one. Golden Grove La Villas, if you see that village, the bushes is one. Covetous land, not even a piece. Right now where I live in at the back of somebody, my father, before he died, end up gave the people them 1964 the piece of land in front for rest their house. The people that build big house, I can't even get entrance to walk to go the roadside when rain fall, all the water in the yard and them kind of things. But then God is good. And I just try and make the best of it. But I think this is a wise idea. Providing that I know if Mr. Hines coming to visit, I will try and limp and go because I have a problem with my legs. I throw me the arthritis pain. But then if I got to go out, I will take a taxi, go and come back. It's not that I couldn't walk, but not like before. I could walk and go here and go there and go to whatever occasion is there. But then I think that's a wise idea, and Dr. Hines should try, as he said, to visit village to village and enlighten the people them and talk to them and let them know unity is strength and we have to unite. We cannot live like that. We can't live like that. It is so like, just trying to tell you a good morning and tell you about the area and what Dr. Hines said. Thank you.
Morning, Brother Kadaki. I mean, I do a lot of voice notes and, I just try to get a good one over to you. I think it's time that all of us as a people, especially black people, let's...
Call it life.
Kadaki morning. This morning I gotta disagree with Rhonda on one thing. Rhonda is a poor woman. Rhonda don't have the means. Rhonda is one of the biggest persons who Rhonda sacrificed more than the Jesus the Christ. You got Norton there, nothing. Ain't coming to front for nothing. All the other parliamentarians ain't coming to front to nothing. So I will make no excuse for none of them. Right? None whatsoever. Rhonda is doing what majority of them need to do with zero in her pocket. Right? She find her way somehow to reach to you guys and protest wherever you are. Only fathers could do the thing like that. You know what I mean? And one other thing, I never know that prisons now got condo and apartment complex. Because the minister of name said that prison population is up but crime is down. It's a good thing. You're doing a good business in prison there now. Anyhow, that's all I have to say today.
Thank you.
Put our indifferences aside. All these, everybody coming up on these shows and the talk about who better and who want better. I think what we need is one sound, one accord, unity. Let we call out for the unity. Let we call out for unity. This is important. The unity. Let we stop with this kind of way that we get against one another. Every time you come on the show, people come on the show, it's just the bombase one another. Who want bombase in this body, bombase in this the body. Who we got to bombase is Jack Dio. Who we got for bombase is Jack Dio, and keep up the pressure with the Jack Dio and the Sue situation. Let me ease this thing. All we supposed to do is try to encourage one another. Let me do the encouragement. Every one of us, let me encourage one another. Let me put aside those petty indifferences with who's representing and who unrepresenting. We got the biggest picture. We got the big snake to deal with, which is the PPP. And we're supposed to focus on using this program to talk just about how we're going to be able to attack this evilous force and bring it down, the PPP. This is not a PPP of Dr. Jeddy Jagon. This is not the PPP of Dr. Jeddy Jagon. This is the evilest regime led by Anil Nandalal, Barra Jagdeo, people like Nigel Darim Lal, and people like Afan Ali and the others get sucked into it. They were sucked into it. You could see these people, these set of people that get sucked into it, they really want to be like that, but they got to go answer because of the leaders, the evilest leaders. So we got to ease this kind of pulling and this kind of running down one another. Listen to what Dr. Heinz talking. We need the unity. This is the strength we want. We need the unity. Let me ease but what Granger do and what Norton and do and what this body do and what the body and do. This is not the time for that. We need the unity. Guyanese black people, please, I beg y'all, we need the unity. We need the unity for take down this big evil snake that is trying to crush the Indians that want to speak out, the Amerindians that getting a disadvantage taken on them, the Indians that being racially discriminated against. This is what we got to deal with. This evilest force in the PPP. Let me look at what's going on. Look what's going on in the parliament. Look how the speaker going on. Those are the important things. Those are the important things we got to look at. Please, Guyanese, please, my black brothers and sisters. We stifling we Indian brothers and sisters who want to speak out with we attitude. We stifling we Amerindian brothers and sisters who want to speak out with we attitude. We got to ease it and we got to do it now. We have to do it now. There's the point that brother David Hines trying to put over to us. We got to ease that now. Thank you.
Thank you for that voice note. That voice note represents a whole lot that I wanted to say in response to all the calls we got this morning. It's 6 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. You know, you say when brothers fight, strangers inherit. I'm going to repeat that if at this 11th hour we can't stop fighting, we don't deserve anything. We want it, so let go along. Because we can't stop fighting, call it life. Final one for the day. It's when brothers fight, strangers inherit. Call it live.
Hello. Hi, good morning, Kadaki. Good morning to the listening public. Now, we have, let's say, about 2 years plus to elections. As far as I seen here now, things are next. This is to admonish a coalition, if there's a coalition, or the APNU party, that we need to go out there and start our campaign. This campaign needs to start like public rallies and so on. What happened to the public rallies? I'm not hearing nothing but the public rallies. Nobody's going out there and keeping meetings and those things. People want some form of support. They need to know if there's any hope. There's any hope for the coalition in this country. People want to see somebody on the rock to give them some sort of hope that the APNU is alive. So we need public rallies. We need to go out there and keep our public rallies, right? The Square Revolution, at least you could get some form of supporters to go out there and clean up that place. We need to do something. Not just sit back and relax and wait for until 2025 comes, and then we can start keeping our rally. So go out there and start our campaign now. So I am asking Mr. Norton or whoever We need to start our campaign now. We need to go out there and let the people know what's going on, right? That there's hope for us in this country. Thank you very much. That's my call. That's my
Thank you very much. Again, this call has captured some of what I consider important in this discourse. Because I was saying, if at this 11th hour, we cannot understand that we ought to put our disagreements on pause and try to find more in common than in disagreement. I'm sure that in the PNC camp there must be more common ideas, there must be more commonality than there are disagreements. And if we can't find more commonality than there are disagreements in the party, then we perhaps should just shut shop, rack back, and let the PPP do as the PPP does. Run things their way. You gotta keep your eyes on the prize. And I'm saying again, the PPP and Nandlal and all the likes of the big wigs in the PPP weren't consensual on Irfan Ali's presidency. Or Irfan Ali's candidacy, let me say. They weren't. But they kept their eyes on the prize. The prize was the removal of the coalition from office, regardless of how, by the hook or the crook, that was the prize. And they realized that the energies spent, or they would have spent fighting each other for candidacy, was energies that would have taken away from them really waging a proper campaign to remove the coalition from office. And so they set those differences aside, they fought together. And today, in a corrupt fashion, installed or not, they're running this country as they would like to. The folks over the PNC and in the opposition, y'all want to run this country? The folks who claim to be supporters of the coalition and the PNC, y'all want the coalition and the PNC to run this country? Because I don't get the impression. I mean, I must say to Rhonda, I totally disagree with the name calling and so on, calling England Gomes a thing, and you know, sometimes we don't have to go low to get our points over. Name calling each other ain't gonna help it. Identify the weaknesses and pointing out ways of strengthening it is what will help. And when I say England Gomes, come and let's talk about this thing on the program, when I said it yesterday, I wasn't joking, I was very serious. And it wasn't an attack, it wasn't a threat, it wasn't an attempt to emasculate England Gomes. I think it's an issue that needs to be discussed, whether publicly or privately, but since it is constantly raised in a public manner, I would like, we can address them in a public manner, we can deal with these things in a public manner. Once and for all. But when we finish with that discussion, we must know that, you know, it's time to shake hands and go and sit at the table and put your damn shoulders to the wheel and work. Because that is what will make the difference. It sickens me every day. I mean, as a host, I don't generally respond to voice notes and calls and so on. You all recognize that because everybody's entitled to their opinion. But how do we expect to win an election if in this 11th hour we'll be fighting one another still? Just take out a Harmon camp, and a Granger camp, and a Charles camp, and a Norton camp, and a Lawrence camp. Y'all going to join the Scout Association. Y'all ain't serious, y'all ain't ready for politics. Y'all want camp, go and camp out. The time is now. The time has long passed, as a matter of fact, for a show of unity in the opposition camp. And anybody who is stoking this unity is an enemy to the people. I ain't concerned about an enemy to the PNC and coalition. They are an enemy to the people, especially the oppressed people in this country. And people must see them for what? For that. It's not everybody who say, the Bible says not everybody say who Lord God Almighty gonna enter the kingdom. It's not everybody who put on a PNC shirt and jersey or pants and all around long live comrade leaders PNC. Some of them are just there to create chaos. It is not every member of an organization that is an organization person. A lot of them are there for self-aggrandizement. They're looking for recognition. And so if they could get recognized pulling down somebody else, that is what they will do. But at the end of the day, I'm saying we need to recognize what is good for us as a collective, what is the greater good. And forget this nitpicking and this division. And unite. Hug up your flag. Kiss it and turn it into prince. We ain't got time for going to look for no prince.